We also do some technology stuff, robotics club, and some things that we'll talk about today. And you'll get to meet Jason on Tuesday already. So he's here. He's going to film us. I'm finishing up my master's in instructional technology, so I'm going to use you guys as guinea pigs here to get that degree. So, hey, let's start. We just want to show you some different tools that we use in our classroom. So we kind of made a lesson with a bunch of stuff thrown in that we use throughout, our courses. Maybe we're going to use a little bit more in one short class today than we would normally. But the first one is Menti. So you guys are going to be our students here. So if you head to menti.com on whatever device you've got, enter this code, and then just throw in some terms that you think of whenever you think of technology and education. Which, that's the focus of this course, right? Technology and education.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, you're supposed to.
And Menti has a ton of different options. So what should happen here is as you enter stuff, it's going to create a word cloud. And you can create polls, you can create a lot of different feedback options with Menti.
And it is free. So as you're thinking about your lessons and things coming up, this is something that we use a lot as the kids come in to kind of like get the day started, topics to think about. And it scrolls through so they can all see each other's ideas and things that are going on. So it is a free tool. Yeah.
Then you have the results saved too afterwards. So you can go back and keep this word cloud or whatever responses that you gather. You have a record of that as well. Okay. So innovative, advanced, unique, improving, resourceful, helpful, hard. Okay, so that's what we'll talk about some of today is how the technology gives you tons of options in the classroom, but it doesn't mean it always makes things better, especially if you're not using it the right way. So it can be challenging for sure, especially for people who may not naturally have that desire to use technology or an inclination to go out and try different things. All right, has anybody seen Menti before, that new tool? Okay. What about Nearpod? Have you guys seen Nearpod before? All right, well, Nearpod's cool. I usually log my room. Let's flip over to it. So I'm going to have you log into something else. And this will be what we do our main presentation on. And this is how I present the majority of new material in my classroom. It's a tool called Nearpod. So if you go to join.nearpod.com, or if you're on a phone, it may ask you to do the Nearpod app. It's free. And if you don't want to download on your phone, just look at your buddy next to you. If you have a laptop or tablet or whatever, just go to nearpod.com and enter this code. And what Nearpod allows you to do is create a lesson, and you can do it within a Google Slides. You can take a PowerPoint, PDFs, whatever you've already got, if you have something pre-made, and load it into this tool, and then throw in tons of interactive features, video clips, different web links or web tools. There's a ton of different options. So this one's a pretty short one, and I've thrown in just a couple interactive features to show you kind of how it works. But in this Nearpod, we'll talk about sort of educational technology in general, some stuff that we use in our class, and then we've got tons of toys set up that we use with our kids that we'll go get to play with here in a little bit, fly some drones and check out some different things. So nearpod.com, and up here you're seeing the teacher view. The student view you'll see is a little bit different. If you still need the code, it stays up here in the top left. So we got 13 people here, so in the teacher view, that's what I can see who's signed in. I can get a preview of all my slides. So we're just gonna talk some about integrated technology. And some of this stuff may be new to you, and some of it may be stuff you've heard before, but this is kind of stuff that, especially Aaron and I, specifically like to do in our classrooms. So first of all, why? Why do you want to use technology in your classroom? And we kind of sat down and created a list of some things that we benefit from by using these tools. And I think the key here is if you use it effectively, because there's lots of ways to implement technology where maybe you're doing the same thing you could do with pencil and paper, just with a more expensive device. Right? That's not really benefiting you in any way. But if used correctly, you can see an increase in engagement, enhance the learning with different tools and different experiences that you might not get pencil and paper. Critical thinking and high-level thinking opportunities for those kids who are ready to push on to a higher level. New experiences, one thing that we'll look out in the hall is some VR goggles, and we'll get to look at a presentation of how animals see the world. Okay, so obviously we're not getting that pencil and paper. Student ownership of their work. So with technology, students are able to make all kinds of creations, videos, animations. One thing Erin does is have her students make stop motion videos, and some of those kids go above and beyond. And, then you have a kid do the Lego, like, was that you? And they spent forever making little Lego movies. But so the students have ownership of what they're creating, rather than filling out a worksheet, right? That's the teacher's worksheet, they're just putting the answers in. Sharing and collaborating is a ton easier. And then of course convenience, right? For me, if I'm doing a test or a quiz and we can do it online and it grades automatically, great. If it's something that would take me 2 hours to do pencil and paper and it does it automatically on using technology, that's just one example of the convenience it can bring.
And when students, with the sharing and collaboration, when they know they're sharing out to their peers or maybe to the community or whatever it is, they take a lot more ownership and pride in what they're developing, because they know it's not just you sitting and seeing it, it's going to go out. So they usually add a little extra flair and add their personality to a lot of things.
And that's a theory too that ties in with project-based learning and lots of other educational models is that realistic, real-world audience. All right, so here's another aspect of Nearpod that I think is kind of cool, and it's a drawing feature. So whatever device you have, you can draw on the screen, and there's tons of tools here where there's text boxes you can type and things can pop up. If you have a touchscreen device or an iPad, something like that, it's probably a little easier than if you have a laptop. But for this, on here are those different things we just talked about, the benefits of technology. Circle the one that you think is the most important or maybe the most meaningful. Maybe there's a couple of them. This image we just made in Google Drawings, which is another really simple tool. And put it into our Nearpod.
Can you erase if you chose the wrong?
Mm-hmm. Yep, there's an eraser down in the bottom left. Did you mess up, Dr. Nichols?
Yes, sir. Did you write it?
So I teach social studies, ancient civilizations, and one way that I really like this feature is I can share a map, and the kids have to find or locate different locations on that map. This is a really great way to use technology with math. So they can write right on the screen. But this is, you can do it with a background like this. You can have a blank background and the kids are drawing on a blank screen or solving problems. So a pretty adaptive tool. All right, so let's see if we can find the most commonly circled. Looks like enhanced learning pops up a lot. A higher level thinking, I see a few of. Yeah, so let's say we wanted to share a specific answer with the whole class. So we're going to share Emma's answer here. And I can send her answer to your devices, and then we can analyze what Emma is, or whoever Emma is, I'm sorry. But you can also have the student's name not tied to it. So if you want this to be anonymous, you don't have to project the teacher view up at the front. I just like you to see what the teacher sees in this. Okay. This is also a great way to present if maybe you've got a large class, or if you've got students, all your students have their own device, maybe they can't see the front board as well. But if they have their device, it's right in front of them. They don't need to be able to see the front projector or screen. All right. All right, there's two types of tools that we kind of want to talk about how we use. One is just online tools. So in Clearwater, we have one-to-one Chromebooks. And so we use a ton of online tools. We're a Google school. So all the G Suite tools, Google Docs, Slides, Google Drawings, get used a ton, Google Classroom. But there's other online tools, mostly free, that we rely on a lot. And this is just sort of a brief list of some of the things that we use. Anchor.fm is a podcast creator. It's a free online podcast creator. So I know in my class and Aaron's class, we like to have the kids have options of how to show their knowledge in different ways. And a podcast is a really cool way for the kids to create whatever it is they're talking about, maybe create a script. And then with Anchor FM, they can go in and record that. They can add background music and background tracks, and it ends up being a pretty cool thing that they can share. Canva is a sort of a graphic design tool to make flyers or posters, infographics. Edpuzzle, has anybody used Edpuzzle before? Have you seen that? Yeah, I use Edpuzzle a lot, so I'm a social studies teacher, you know, the social studies teacher just turn on videos all the time, right? But Edpuzzle allows you to take an online video clip from YouTube or wherever it is, and you can embed a voiceover, you can put in extra information, quiz questions, and so as the kids are watching that video and it gets to that point, then it's gonna ask them a question or give whatever extra information you added in. Flipgrid, we're gonna have you do at the end, and that's where students can really easily record a video of themselves, and it shares it with the class, and that's one that I think is pretty common. Menti we saw earlier, Nearpod we're in now, and Padlet. Oh, Aaron, you want to talk about Padlet?
Okay.
You use it.
Really fast, I'll tell you with Flipgrid too, it has a way that you can connect virtually with other schools across the world. And my class recently just did one with a school from Australia, and so it would be like having a pen pal, but it's more of a virtual, so you don't necessarily have to be in the same time zone with Flipgrid to be able to use. You can connect with other schools. But Padlet is kind of like an online storyboard where students can, so you can make all different types of graphic organizers and you can just throw them up. It's collaborative, so all the students log into the same one, they can throw up ideas. Kind of like with Menti, but you can organize it more in like different topics and things that you want students to put their information in. So it's a great way. When we were working on our outdoor classroom, we did for ideas that the students wanted, they threw them up onto Padlet. We had like 170 kids on one Padlet all throwing in ideas and pictures of things that they wanted, so. And then Powtoon. Powtoon is kind of an animated way to make a video with cartoons. You can sign up with a free account and you have a lot of options. If you have the paid one, you have a lot more. But the students really like using that to make different videos. I would say it's a cross between like a PowerPoint and cartoons kind of mixing together. And if you looked at educational videos on YouTube, you've probably seen some Powtoons come up, and they usually have somebody writing or, I don't know, just have different types of things you can add into that the students really like.
And then, but yeah, finally, WeVideos and a web-based video production. And it's, like a lot of these, it's got freemium content, so it's free to use the basic features, and then the paid account gives you all the rest of the features. But our kids use it a lot just with their Chromebooks and the built-in cameras to make videos. We have a group that makes, you know, student news each day of the week, and they use WeVideo for that. All right, now another feature in Nearpod allows us to poll. So I put a timer on this one. It's a minute, so you probably don't need a whole minute, but I just wanted to show you that Nearpod has this automatic timer feature. So if you want kids to answer a question or draw a picture, and you know Billy's gonna, you know, try to be Picasso and take the whole class period to draw a picture of the pyramids of Egypt, right? And you can put a limit on it. So we just went through 8 or 9 different online tools. Go ahead and select the ones that maybe you have heard before, you've used before, ones that you were familiar with. And if that's none of them, that's okay. You can hit send without selecting anything.
And as you're thinking about these things, these are all great ideas to use when you're thinking about your independent practice for students and what that looks like instead of maybe doing something more traditional. This is a great way to still get that content in that you want them to know and to be able to apply and analyze or evaluate, but do it in a format where they can kind of add in their creativity and really take ownership of that. So as you're thinking about your lesson plans and going forward, think about how you could possibly incorporate some of those, because your engagement will really go up a lot.
All right, so here's our results that I just shared, which means it's gonna pop up that final pie chart on your screen. And so Flipgrid's the most common tool, and that's, you know, that's a pretty familiar one. The least selected, Anchor FM, Edpuzzle, a handful of no answers, right? So, you know, Menti and Nearpod we're doing now, so you hopefully are a little familiar with those. But, you know, there's, out of this list of 8 or 9 things, right, there's thousands of other tools that people use and are available online. And that's the neat thing about technology is you can get to all of these tools, and most of them, at least you can use the basic versions for free. Now the other type of tools, and these are sort of the ones we brought for you guys to play with here in a little bit, are physical tools. Now these obviously cost a little bit of money to invest in, but they provide a lot of benefits. So we've got some drones, and I'll let Mrs. Youngers talk about these, and they are ones that you program yourself. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, so this is my first year to really teach drones. I got the idea last year at the conference, but they are Mambo Parrot mini drones. And we use Tinker, which is an app. It's also web-based, but the drones don't fly. You have to have a tablet to fly the drones. So, but you're able to code them through there. The program Tinker itself, you can code like Spheros, Ozzobots, all different types of things. But we specifically use it for the drones. And so students just come in and I have different challenges for them, and they use the drones to code and try to complete that challenge. And then another way we try to up the higher level thinking is they created their own web page based on all the things that they learned. And so we did that through Google, the Google platform, where they threw in all the reflections, all the directions. They kind of made like a how-to and help page. So for other students in the building that are using and aren't familiar, they can go there and what does it mean when it's flashing red, or when this happens, what do we do? So that's how we use the drones. I use them with 4th, 5th, and 6th grade during our MTSS time in the morning is how I've been using it. And then also classrooms can check them out and use them. We've used them in our science classroom. But they're very versatile, can be used with any content. Some of the other ideas are some tools that we don't have, but they have little like darts that you can, some teachers had like different questions around the room and they had to program their drone to fly to certain answers in a certain order based on the problems. So they really are very versatile, and they can be used really in any capacity. And they're very higher level and challenging because they'll fly and do something, and then the kids really have to go back and figure out where in my code did I go wrong. They also include a lot of math with different angles and the timing and measurement. So there's a lot of topics that are integrated with drones.
The next with robotics. So Aaron and I started a robotics competition team for 5th and 6th graders 4 or 5 years ago. And we use these Lego Mindstorms kits. We didn't bring those because our competition's next Saturday and our kids would kill us if these fell. So the other type of robotics that we have for our 4th and 5th graders are these VEX kits that they use as part of their science curriculum, the Project Lead the Way. And I'll show you a little video clip on the next slide of some of our kids using these robot kits to solve a challenge. But what I really find exciting about this experience is the kids have a challenge, and the kids we have are very motivated. So they come in every day, and they've been coming in since the beginning of the semester to solve these problems, and they fail more than they're successful. And this teaches them that they've got to work through those failures, figure out a solution. And so this experience, I think, is one that's great for those kids. The Makey Makey is another tool we have out here. Has anybody seen these Makey Makeys before? You can turn like bananas into video game controllers and stuff. So it's a circuitry, and you're going to, you can connect these, and you'll see them out there too, these circuit boards with the wires, and you can use really anything that can conduct electricity, you can use yourself as the controllers. So it's a neat way to teach kids about circuits, electricity. The VR goggles, and some we mentioned a little bit earlier, we have out there for you set up to test out. And this is a great way of sort of taking a field trip without going anywhere. So in my ancient civilizations classes, we've gone to the 7 wonders of the world, we've looked at ancient Rome, we've looked at a lot of areas that we can't take 6th graders to. But with these goggles, we can. And Google has pre-made a lot of scripts that you can go through, and it teaches you exactly, here's what you're looking at. You can, and we'll show you, you can click a spot, and the kids, VR goggles have an arrow that tells them where to look, so everybody's looking at the same spot. So that's a really, really neat tool. And as long as you don't get like car sick or seasick, you're gonna be okay. 3D printer, so we've got 2 3D printers at our school. One's not really working very well, but we've got one that is working. And we weren't able to bring it, but I did bring a couple things we printed from it. And what we mainly use to make our 3D designs is a tool called Tinkercad. So it's free, it's a very basic level 3D design. And we'll have kids make all kinds of pretty cool stuff on there. There's more advanced 3D design tools, and some of them are free, especially in educational use, that we can get as well, but we always start with Tinkercad. So one example, I brought in something I just 3D printed and finished today. We have a student who a year ago was in a very terrible car accident, an extremely bright kid, he's an 8th grader. and now is blind and has a lot of challenges. And so he's learning Braille, and our gifted teacher found these, and we 3D printed them, and it's a puzzle, it's a pig, and it's 3 pieces, one for each letter of pig, P-I-G, and it's got Braille on each piece. And so he can figure out what those letters are and then snap the puzzle together. And so he did this morning and made fun of me because it's way too easy. So I printed him one that says rocket, and I've got one ready that says Zeppelin to really mess with him. But I think that's a really cool way to add adaptability in our education with tools like that. And this is something that we didn't even design. I wouldn't have been creative enough to think of this idea, but somebody out there did. There's an organization for visually impaired education, and they created those designs, and they're free to get and print. And then finally, the Ozobots. Aaron, you want to talk about the Ozobots?
Yeah, so the Ozobots are very user-friendly. I would say kindergarten can use Ozobots all the way up. They can be used in high school as well. But they are kind of starting to coding and understanding the different steps that you take to solve a problem. But how our kids kind of use them is they follow colors, and so they would draw a pattern, like a red, blue, green, little boxes together pattern would make it go really fast. And so basically they're trying to solve how to get to a certain location, doing different, putting different color codes in to get there. So they start off pretty easy and then slowly get harder and harder with that. So, and I would say all of these things, our kids, when they come in to our building, don't have a lot of background on unless they have something at home. So all these tools are really easy to get started with, but you just have to be kind of open to that one day you may come in and they don't work right, and work through those challenges with the students and keep going through them, because they really do in the end gain a lot from using them, even if it's a little challenging on a few days if they just aren't working right. Some days our robotics kids come in and we don't know what happened, they all of a sudden all don't work, and then other days that they have the same thing and it works fine. So
there will be a point where the kids know more than you about this stuff. Aaron and I and Jason, we're pretty comfortable with these tools, but there's always a kid that gets way into it and ends up, finding some YouTube video of an 11-year-old somewhere in the world who knows everything about this, and they come to school the next day and they will know way more than you. And so relying on those expert kids can help us learn a lot more. The robotics is a big example of that. We've got kids this year who've taken a big leap, and we couldn't do on these robots what they're doing. But they're able to be experts, help the kids around them, and help us figure it out as well. All right, so last thing is, with Nearpod, we can put in video clips. And so this is one of our students running a robotics course. So this is a course where it's supposed to be an Olympic rescue. So they have to build a rescue vehicle for an Olympic ski slope. They start in the first aid area. This little circle is where their injured person is. So they have to get there, get around the, what's that called, slalom, right?
Yeah.
Where you get around the poles, get over the mogul, the bumps, around the fences, up to the mountain, and then back to the first aid station. And so they've got to figure out how to build this robot with the right sensors and then code it and program it to run this course. And this is one of those things where Aaron and I probably could not do this. You could give us the same robotics kit, you could give us 6 months, and we would have given up 2 weeks in, right? But these kids, the boys who are running this, 2 weeks, I think. We get about an hour each morning, and in about 2 weeks, they've gotten, not all the way through, they're still working, but they've gotten pretty far on this course, a lot farther than I thought they'd get. And so I'm playing this on my device up front. We don't really need sound for this video, but I've also shared it for your devices. So on Nearpod, you can put it where it only plays on the front board, where it plays on the student devices, just depending on what works for you.
right now that sensor is reading the pigment of the yellow compared to the white.
They've been, I don't know, about a week stuck on this next part of the course. So these rumble strips are fairly high. They're pretty big. So you can see they lift the sensor up, the robot drives over it, and then it's got to turn that corner and get through the rest of the course. But between the robot getting stuck sometimes, and I think here it drives off the end of the course, it's a pretty good challenge for those boys. I mean, they fail in different ways over and over and over again. But, you know, they stick with it, they're pretty tenacious, and they continue to work, and that's how they've solved the rest of this course, is by failing over and over, but sticking with it. And so I think that's one thing that these technology experiences can give the kids, is how to solve a problem, how to work through difficulties, and hopefully teaching that resiliency. All right, you ready to play? Let's go play with some stuff. We've got